Hi guys, I'm going to give a quick introduction to photosynthesis. It has quite a few stages and quite a few things going on, so this is just an introductory video to help you get a grip of it. Okay, so it's photosynthesis. Should have really wrote this before. Okay, and it's just an introduction to it. So basically, photosynthesis is a process used by plants, bacteria, algae. All of these species, organisms, are known as photoautotrophic, and they use fundamentally light to create glucose. This is a very simplistic way of explaining it, but that basically is what happened, and then the organism uses this glucose within respiration. Don't get photosynthesis confused with respiration, okay, but that'll be in later videos. Okay, so it doesn't just use light, photosynthesis, it uses three things that go into photosynthesis: CO2 plus water and the light, and they create two out products, one of which being glucose and the other being oxygen. Okay, so a plant's job with photosynthesis isn't to make oxygen, but it does that anyway. It can use the oxygen, it does use the oxygen, but it is a byproduct of photosynthesis. To go in a little bit more detail, we can talk about the formula, okay, that's required for A level, and you have 6 CO2 molecules plus 6 water molecules plus energy, which is in the form of the light, and that creates your glucose, okay, which is C6 H12O6, and it also creates 6 oxygen molecules. Okay, so that is the chemical formula for photosynthesis and the process. Photosynthesis, like I say, there's a few things that go on, and this is fundamentally the first thing you need to get a grip of. What goes in, what comes out. Okay, there's different stages, but what goes in, what comes out are very, very important. Okay, very good. So, the next thing, where does photosynthesis take place? Well, it takes place in a plant cell, in an organelle called a chloroplast. This is a photosynthetic organelle which gives plants its greenness. It's an organelle, it's a double membrane bound organelle like mitochondria. Okay, so it has two membranes. It has these circular stacks, okay, in various places throughout the organelle. Okay, I'll label it up in a minute. And it also has these bridges that join these stacks. Okay, so a bit of labeling. This here is the outer membrane. This one here is the inner membrane. Okay, we have the fluid-like structure in the middle, which is known as the stroma, and we have these stacks that I mentioned earlier called the grana. If you refer to one, it's a granum, and these grana are made up of these little round things that I mentioned before, and these are thylakoid. Okay, thylakoids. Lastly, in some pictures you see this, in some you don't. In A-level specifications you do see this. You have this bridge joining the grana together, and it's called the lamellae, or the lamella, depending on how you like to describe it. Now, chloroplast is very important because this is where photosynthesis takes place. Like I said before, you have the grana, which are made up of thylakoids, and they're inside the stroma. The stages that I'll talk about in a minute take place in different places on this. But remember, we're still all dealing with these products. Right. So photosynthesis itself is made up of two processes. One colour. Okay, so photosynthesis itself is made up of two processes that we go into in much more detail. The first one is the light dependent reaction. Okay, and the clue being in the name, the light dependent. Light dependent. Okay. The second part is the light independent reaction. Which does not require light. Okay, so you get the light dependent, which needs light, and it takes place in the grana, specifically in the thylakoid membrane, but we'll deal with that in another video. And the light independent reaction that doesn't use light, and that takes place in the stroma. Right. Now, both of these produce some products, and we'll start with the light dependent reaction. Basically, the light dependent reaction produces stuff that will go into the next thing. Okay, so light dependent reaction, it produces ATP, it produces reduced NADP. Okay, so ATP will carry some energy, reduced NADP will carry some ions, and it also produces the oxygen. This is all the area where light is required. Okay, this product and this product will then go over to the light independent reaction, and they'll be used there to create the next product. The light dependent reaction is also known, and you'll see it, as the Calvin cycle, because this is the cycle that actually produces the glucose, but it's in this part, our light independent reaction. So we've got our ATP, reduced NADP, and oxygen, and the light independent reaction produces only one product, the main product that was needed, glucose. Okay, so that's that. So you've got the light dependent reaction produces ATP, reduced NADP, and oxygen. The light independent reaction produces glucose. Remember, the light independent reaction is known as the Calvin cycle. So I've explained a few brief things already, but like the energy and what goes in and out, where it's going on, and the two stages, but you can draw them together in one image to try and make sense of that a little bit more. Okay, so I will draw that now. It's quite a popular image or variant of. Okay, so we have our chloroplast. I won't draw the inner membrane. I'll just draw the thylakoids on the grana. Okay, and I said we had two stages that make up photosynthesis. We have the light dependent, which needs light, and the light independent. Okay, light independent and I'll I'll put a line down here. It doesn't actually work like this, like left and right of a chloroplast, but to help you understand. Remember, I said the light independent reaction has a process within it called the Calvin cycle. Okay. So these are the things. The Calvin cycle takes place in the stroma that's floating around inside the chloroplast, and the light dependent reaction takes place in the grana, specifically in the thylakoid membrane. Now, the first thing that we need, that we said, is water. Water is going to go in. Okay, so let's say water goes in. I say the first thing, they all happen at once. Okay, but in our drawing, water's going in, which is one of the inputs that we need here. And that goes in, and that's used in a light-dependent reaction. Light also comes into the light-dependent reaction, as the name suggests. Oops, messed that up a bit. And there's our light. Okay, and they go through a few processes which will be explained in another video, and they give off, the product that is given off is our oxygen. That is one of our products. Okay, here. Okay, so the water and the light mix, some stuff goes on, and oxygen is released. What also happens, remember, is that the light-dependent reaction produces three things. Well, we've just produced oxygen, but it produces ATP and reduced NADP. Okay, so our ATP is produced and goes over to the light-independent reaction to the Calvin cycle. And there's our reduced NADP. So now all the products from the light-dependent reaction have been made. The O2 is given off, and the ATP reduced NADP has gone to the light-independent reaction. Now that doesn't use light, but what we do have is one input that we haven't used yet. Okay, and that, hopefully you remember, is the O2. So the CO2 goes in the light independent stage. Okay, that goes through the Calvin cycle, which will be explained in another video. The ATP and reduced NADP are also in the Calvin cycle, and out of that comes what we wanted, which is our glucose for the plant or organism to use. So that's all the products that go in and all the products that come out. ATP and reduced NADP though get recycled, okay, and if that's a bit confusing, there'll be other videos that'll explain that. So once ATP has used its energy, release some energy, it comes back in the form as ADP plus P, and the same with reduced NADP, comes back in the form of just NADP. So you get the light dependent reaction that requires light, requires water, and this takes place in the grana, specifically in the thylakoid membrane. Some processes go on, O2 is released, ATP is transferred to the light independent reaction, and reduced NADP is transferred to the light independent reaction. And that's that side done. In the light independent reaction, the Calvin cycle takes place. CO2 is added to the Calvin cycle, and using the ATP reduced NADP produces glucose, which is the ultimate goal of photosynthesis. But the products now that have gone in get recycled back, so the ADP plus P go back to the thylakoid, and the NADP also go back. I hope that helps. Okay, any questions, please leave some comments, and there'll be other videos that will break down both the light dependent and the light independent reactions.